downtown.
You're listening to the Paul Carroll Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being with us today. My name is Paul, the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. You're listening to it, and we're building a liberty machine, and one of the ways you can contribute is to call or text 870-275-9799. I'm back from the Marble Palace. We just had a very interesting first hour where we talked about this transfer of $105 million into the governor's slush fund. Joining us now, we're going to talk a little bit about this. We got Senator Bryan King is with us from District 5. Senator, welcome back.
Hey, Paul, good to be on.
I want to start by asking about some of these tweets back and forth between you and the governor's spokesperson, J.R. Davis. We've got it up there on the screen, and J.R. Davis is claiming that it's your responsibility to produce documents and numbers on bills that they want you to vote for?
Yeah, I mean, I was back here at the farm. I also had some other family issues, had to come back last night for and deal with that. And so then next thing you know, I'm getting a tweet that, I spoke down there for 45 minutes. I think I spoke and took questions for 45 minutes. So naturally, big issue, you have to take time. And then I wound up not voting. But when I said something, the first thing I asked Senator Dismayne was, and understand, Senator Dismayne, this guy is the guy that sold us this program, that told us that it was going to be this big economic boom. It was going to be this great thing. We were going, they gave all these estimates.
Medicaid expansion, right?
Yeah, Medicaid expansion. And then we start finding out everything, how bad it is and how financially wrong. And he promised us this great eligibility system. You had $60 million spent that never did produce nothing. It was us, wasn't him that brought it out. If I sell you something, then I should make sure it works in legislation and go through it. He did nothing, wasted $60 million. So then turns around, we wound up having everybody in all 50 states, probably several countries too, that have people on his Obamacare. So naturally I'm going to start asking questions. Well, the first thing I get, and let me back up a minute. I said down there, I'm going to give Mike Beebe some credit. When I came in, when you had bills like this, you had detailed financial analysis. Now, you may disagree with them or this or that, okay? We walk in, we just have an agenda. Vote for this. I mean, this is exactly why these guys have led us into financial hard times during a non-economic downturn year, Paul. That's how bad they are. So I asked him, I said, is there a financial analysis on this? No, don't have it. Well, it's like walking into a bank. This is what Representative Meeks now, I guess, is now trying to. I guess JR's quit and went home now on Twitter after I keep asking him how much surplus we have and how much, revenue projections, how well they're hitting them.
Like that. Yeah.
I haven't heard from JR, so now I guess they prompted David Meeks to get after things while, I got, family issues, this other stuff to worry about, and so. He's wondering that I'm MIA. Well, I'm actually down there asking Dismayne, but here's the thing. If you walk into a bank and somebody's wanting to make a business deal with you on several million, that's going to be a several $1 million, wouldn't you want some details before you made that decision? I mean, this is a Nancy Pelosi. Vote for it to find out what's in it. And we've already had promises by Senator Dismayne that we were going to save. Remember this thing? Him and John Burris are going to save all this traditional Medicaid money. Okay, we were going to save. Remember all this money we were going to save in traditional Medicaid by expanding Obamacare over here? Well, come to find out that wasn't true. So, I mean, Dismayne has several credibility issues when it comes to financial matters of this state.
I would agree with that.
I want some financial details before I make a decision. Hey, I would ask that, Paul, no offense, if you came to me on something. I mean, it's just natural to want to say, I want some financial details.
I was there listening. His response was essentially, and he never actually said, I don't know if he actually said we don't need financial reports, but he said because this bill was only to, ask DHS to apply for waivers, we don't really need, that was his defense. We don't have numbers and papers, but this J.R. Davis says, quote, it's literally, you said, I said in my speech I wasn't voting until I was provided detailed financial analysis. Also said that's one of the many reasons you're in budget trouble. J.R. Davis says it's literally your responsibility as a legislator, but you rarely vote.
Yeah.
That is my point. And it's interesting. I mean, is he talking about what's he talking about? Is he when he says it's your responsibility?
I don't. Maybe you need to have him on, because I'm thinking if I push legislation, this may be something crazy for J.R. Davis and Governor Hutchinson. If I'm pushing legislation, okay, then I need to know how much it's going to cost, what it's going to do. For example, I'll give you an example. When it came to I don't believe that we should be paying to remediate college students in using taxpayer money just to catch them up with no college credit. There's a low standard of them graduating. I feel like that we waste money. I did financial research. JR, if you're listening, David Meeks, if you're listening, Jonathan Dismang, if you're listening, maybe I can help you. If you guys want to call, I can help you get where guys can come up with this. But I sit there and provided we spent, several $1 million this last year. I took that money out. I allocated it out where that money would, instead of going to remediate college students, we'd have a certain percentage that would pay for it, would go into a fund, and the next year that would fund a 1% COLA for state employees. It would also give a $2,000 bonus to state police out there for every year that they're in. This fund would give $1,000 to probation parole officers, which were having trouble retention in those areas. Then would also put some of the money towards the highway department. And as that bill compounded, as those dollar amounts compounded, then it would subtract from the highway department. I had documents, everything, to be able to present that. Okay, guess what? These guys produced absolutely nothing. How much uncompensated care are we going to pay when these people leave the system? Okay, they gave a figure. They more than welcome give a figure of 60,000. Well, what percentage of those people are going to quit working? Okay, just get down to the other level. Then I asked about details about the work requirements. Guess what? Senator Dismang, I think you remember, he said, well, it's going to be this and this and this maybe, but DHS is coming up with it. Well, I don't make deals like that. I want things like that. I want details before you do it. And like I said, this is why Senator Dismang, this is actually a poster child for government irresponsibility spending and management of anything. I'll go back to the eligibility that hundreds of millions was wasted on something Jonathan Dismang promised as a great system. So, you know what, in the thing, after you had financial details and you have a discussion about it, you know what, I might have voted for it. But I'm not making any more deals that Senator Dismang pushes.
Well, here's the point, and if anyone's listening, here's the point with all this, and Representative David Meeks and all this stuff, they're saying that this was a vote to roll back Medicaid expansion. First of all, no, it wasn't. Second of all, people are going to, if they do the work requirements 20 hours a week, that's nothing. I mean, good grief, 30 hours a week at minimum wage will get you enough money to where you don't even need to be on Arkansas Works. And that's the real kicker here. So we'll see what the work requirements do. Could you say it's a step in the right direction? I suppose. But to your point, all of these people in leadership still have leadership positions, and we're in a mess that they have perpetuated and caused.
Yeah, they put us in.
And yet then they go out there with the, quote, solution, end quote, and they want to be thought of as credible. And to me, it's insulting because they have been wrong since 2013 on this, and there's no consequences for them. They've been promoted in many cases.
Yeah, they keep their job. That's the thing with, and in the end, I have to still make decisions, and that's why I said I'm not going to make a decision on this until you provide me more. I'm not going to make a decision either way. He acts like I was MIA, like I wasn't even there, and I was there. I was clearly there. I was there in the joint budget thing, trying to propose an amendment to the other thing that they need access to money because they're in budget trouble. But in the end, I said on the Senate floor several times, I said, I think this will reduce the amount of people on this program. I didn't say that. I did say that, and so that's what Representative Meeks. They're just trying to find ways to badger come at Bryan King.
Well, you're always
honestly.
I will say this, and people are saying this all across the Capitol. Even if they didn't like you standing up there for 40 minutes yesterday, they say, well, we can't say Bryan King is wrong, but that doesn't mean that we're wrong. I mean, that's the mental gymnastics that they have to go to, because you've been right about this stuff the entire time. You've been saying we're overspending. Let's talk about overspending, Senator Bryan King.
Yeah, talk about overspending, David Meeks.
Yeah, the governor had to cut $70 million on Friday. He has to cut $43 million yesterday from the next year's budget. I mean, we don't have a surplus like you said.
No.
What's going on?
Well, I went back to 2 years ago. Okay, Representative Meeks, J.R. Davis, if you're listening, you can go back. I've got the newspaper quotes, Michael Wickline, Democrat Gazette. When you looked at a lot of things, I told Michael Lamro at the time, I told him at the time, I said, you guys are spending too much money. Okay? They're spending too much money. They had overestimated what they think they were going to bring in. And when you think you're going to bring in a certain amount, let's you pick $10 or, you pick $12. Well, in our budget, if $10 comes in, you can only spend $10, okay? But if you project $12 and $12 comes in, you spend $12 in the way that works. So let's say $14 comes in. Well, you'd have a $2 surplus. Let's say you wanted to spend $10 and $14 come in my way, you would have a $4 surplus. So, they just kept spending too much. I've been in the newspapers. It's so frustrating down there to go down there and see these appropriation bills with no vetting. You have situations come in. It's just like Nancy Pelosi. You cannot trust the leadership down there to actually put something together, that they hide so much stuff that you don't even know what you're voting on. And so you can't trust them. You just can't trust them. And like I said, they have spent, and in Governor Hutchinson, now they want to criticize me when all I was sitting there saying, you're not going to meet your revenue projections. You're too high. And you know what? Last year's I said was unrealistic. You know what? They're not going to meet that.
Yep.
You remember a few months ago they said, I saw Larry Walter, head of DFA, in the hall. I said, Larry, I don't think you're going to meet projections. You guys have got problems. He said, no, Brian. Swear to God, he sits there and said, no, Brian, don't worry about it. Everything's going to work out. Well, I hope everything still works out somehow. The next 2 months winds up being. So I don't want to be right. I would rather see us have the money come in. But the fact is, they get mad, and then you get the things of J.R. Davis, you get the things of Representative Meeks. They get mad whenever you sit there and point out. In that bubble world down there, they don't like you speaking up and saying,
No.
I don't think this is going to work.
No, they really don't. And it is a bubble. I mean,
it is a bubble.
There was a time where there was a round of applause about, against using the word liar in the chamber. And it's just like, you people have no idea what the average Arkansan thinks when you accurately describe somebody who tells you one thing and then does another.
Right.
Why, Brian, why do they really need that $105 million transfer? I mean, I know they're like, a long-term reserve fund is a good thing, but, I mean, the fact that he cuts $70 million and then $43 million and needs $100 million, I mean, is that connected at all? You think?
That's the thing, and all I can do is work with what they said. And if you were in joint budget, whenever we were talking about, I was actually proposing an amendment that would move this to the long-term reserve fund. I mean, the only difference in my amendment basically was that my amendment would say you could only access it during a special, a physical, or a general session. Okay, not access it through council, which is on Fridays, and there's a lot of funny things happen. I mean, every member down there's a lot of members that are freshmen that do not sit on council or budget. You know what? They have a right to vote on their people's tax dollars just as much as somebody with seniority or buddying up to the system, the Insiders Club. get you on council or budget. And you know what? Under my plan, all 135 members would have had a vote to have to access that fund if needed. And so they keep saying, "Oh, you're such an obstructionist. You're such a this." No, I actually was trying to work out a compromise, and they didn't want the compromise. They wanted the compromise centered more to a central group of people rather than every member.
Yeah, and that's what the rainy day fund was before they renamed it the long-term reserve fund. I mean, it's essentially the same thing. They just renamed it.
Yeah, I mean, and why did we not have more discussion? Why did we not have the bond rating people there to give their side of the story? I mean, if you're going to do something, then do it right. That's not what happens down there. And so they sit there and, there was bills, I think, that I voted against. They say you don't vote a lot. Well, I don't vote a lot. I'll agree, because a lot of times I just want more information to know about how to vote. I'm just not. There's too much mistrust between the legislative leaders.
Yeah.
And there's too much mistrust, guys. And you know what? Before you get my stamp of approval, you need to give me more information, or we need to be having where we have the inside knowledge, where if you get to a point down there that's not there, where every member has the same knowledge as what the insiders do, then that's a different story.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I mean, in joint budget, you had Senator Jason Rapert. He actually said, hey, I thought he hit the nail on the head when he said that there's a trust gap here. I mean, he said something along the lines. Alan Clark said, I agree with you, Senator Rapert. There is a trust gap here. And the reason there's a trust gap, I said this last hour, we trusted, I didn't, but a lot of Republicans trusted Jim Hendren and Asa on ending Medicaid expansion, and that was not true. They trusted him on religious freedom restoration, and that was not true. The NRA recently trusted him on guns, and then they had to come out against him. And so they like to pretend, well, that was just that issue. You're just having trouble in a trust on that issue. Trust us on this issue now. But there's actually a long list of things that we have good cause not to trust.
Yeah, and Representative Meeks, I have a job. I have a job outside the legislature that I have to take care of, and family issues with an extraordinary circumstance today. But, and so we don't have personal staff people to help take care of things and do a lot of different stuff and do research for us and that. But there is a huge trust issue. And he tweeted back a little bit ago. I got on there and I just said, get on Paul Harrell and listen. I'm going to tell you, Representative Meeks, everything at DHS is not fixed. Because if everything at DHS was fixed and done right, we would have had a detailed analysis right there in front of us of what the cost is. How many estimated people are going to go off?
Yes.
Of those people that go off, how much uncompensated care are we going to have to pay for? Do we have an estimate on how many of those people are just going to do what you just said, work down? How many people on this work requirement out of these people on this population you have workforce? DHS can still, I found in Representative Meeks, if you're listening, and I hope you are, but you know what? The waste, fraud, and abuse eligibility doesn't appear to have stopped. You know what? Here's the thing about DHS. Let's make sure they're working right first before we hand them a bigger duty. So now, I guess, we don't know for sure, they're not only going to have to keep track of income eligibility, they're going to have to keep track if they're working or volunteering somewhere for 20 hours. They're now going to have to keep track if they're a student or not. So there was a list of possible, we don't know for sure, possible things that could be done. And here's the big thing that J.R. Davis, Asa Hutchinson, they won't listen, they don't get. Okay? It's one thing to say, and I've acknowledged that I think there'll be less people because of this vote. Okay? But here's the thing. I gave the analogy like floating down a river. And each time we have our river guides up there on your boat, and things get bad and water's coming in, and just like it is right now, and it is with this program, 215,000 promised by Dismang originally, we have over 100,000 more people on it. Okay? All right, that's another thing, Senator Dismang, you can't handle. So it's like a river guy going down the river and water getting in. You pull off, and they say, okay, get back in. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to float down on waves. And we go down there, and things get worse and worse. We are at the point in time of our budget that Representative Meeks doesn't get, J.R. Davis doesn't get. We didn't need a bailout like this bill, okay? We needed a total change in direction.
Yeah, a stop.
Okay,
an all stop.
Stop.
Yeah,
we've got to go back. As bad and difficult as this is,
why not ask them for a cap in enrollment? I mean, you know what I'm saying? They don't want to. They don't want to do the bold
Senator
things.
Dismayne, these Medicaid spendaholics like Senator Dismayne and Governor Hutchinson, like SB 96 again. They want to find a way to survive the program and kick the can.
You're exactly right. For the hospitals. Senator Bryan King, we're out of time. We have got to go to break, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you so much,
hey, thanks
sir.
a lot. Take care,
all righty, folks. Got to go to break. Back in a minute.